to the Royal Enfield booth at the Bike Shed 2019, where it's 30 minutes from kickoff here. We'll have people coming in, and I'll just give a little run through of what we have here this year. Very excited. It's been here for quite a few years now, and we try to do a little bit better every year. Competition gets stiffer, and so we have to show off in the best way we can. I'm here with Lester Harris from Harris Performance. 40 years of racing history that's helped us to make some extraordinary builds and some extraordinary bikes this year. If you come up here, we have 3 new bikes. In the center here, we have our star of the show, the Naught-T GT, based on our all-new 650 Twin GT. Over to the right, we've got our Major Roach, based on our 410 Himalayan, indestructible as the name implies. And then finally on the left, we've got a fantastic build from Winston Yeh Rough Crafts that has joined again our Naught-T GT on the GT base. Talk a little bit about the Continental GT here. We've got Lester Harris. He's going to talk a little bit about what's gone into this bike. You know, it's a blend of both style and function, and we try to bring a little bit of the style at our tech center in Leicester. And Lester gets to bring all the technical expertise that his history in racing brings to our brand. Lester, if you could walk us through the bike a little bit.
Yeah, thanks, Adrian. Yeah, well, this is it. This is the GT. This is a derivative of the new 650 the Royal Enfield launched last year. Strangely enough, we were heavily involved in the design of the original GT about 10 years ago with the single-cylinder 500 engine. When this bike was launched, to a lot of critical acclaim actually, the industrial design guys decided it would be a good idea to do a limited edition and look at some areas on the bike that we could improve. So we've done a fairly extensive amount of work on the bike without losing the essential essence of the motorcycle. So clearly one of the things that the wheels are obviously different. We started with different rim widths so that we could run stickier tyres. We changed the front suspension to Öhlins conventional forks, and we also decided to make some new triple clamps, and we made these with a feature here which allows us to adjust the offset of the forks, which is an aid to refining the handling characteristic of the bike. It's the sort of thing we do on race bikes, and it's a good development tool actually. Moving back towards the back of the bike, we have Öhlins rear suspension. There's quite a bit of engineering in the wheel which you can't really see from the outside, but to make wheel changing an easier job.
Am I right in saying, Lester, that a lot of these modifications have come as a product of actually trying to make this bike work even better as a race bike?
Oh, absolutely. All the things we've done are the sort of things that we would do on a race bike. I mean, clearly we are starting with a road bike, and we don't want to move so far away from it we lose the feeling of the original bike. But all these little features are things that will improve the ride and the handling of the bike.
Fantastic. Well, that's really excellent. I mean, it helps us bring forward a lot of the sporting potential, let's say, of the GT. You know, when you make a cafe racer, you want it to go racing.
You do.
And so this is something that maybe watch this space, and we'll see where we can go with the bike in the near future. Looks like we've just got Winston Yeh here. Winston, come over here. We've got this other amazing build. So here we are with Winston Yeh, who has done another build based on our Continental GT. Also racy, also exciting. Can you tell us a little bit about what went into it, what your thought process was? What went into making this the ultimate GT?
When I first got the bike, I'm very impressed about how smooth and how good it rides. Then we're talking about what can we do, like the ultimate coolest build, and we're talking about the direction, and then we end up decide to do the endurance racing. But usually with the endurance racing, with the traditional one, you will see like a very big tail section and a very big front fairing, which I don't really like. So I want to do my own interpretation of that. So one thing of that big fairing is you need that to have a proper steering. So I reduced that and reduced the tail. So I designed the fairing that actually turns with the steering. So you can see the front fairing actually turns with the steering. But if you look at it from the side, it's actually the following line that have an illusion of it's a one-piece fairing, but it actually is separated. And then when I cover the top half of the engine, because the crankcase of this Royal Enfield engine is just so nice, this egg shape, and then I want to emphasize that by doing this kind of hand bent looking exhaust. It's actually 8 pieces per exhaust to make this bent that looks like a one piece, but it's actually not. It's a lot of work, a lot of cutting and welding just to make it look smooth one piece. And then of course Öhlins got the awesome FGRT fork and then the TDX rear shock with this. This is an aluminum string arm, actually fully custom built, attached to BST carbon fiber wheels, Behringer brake, Pirelli slicks. And this is by Kingspan Seat, one of the top seat craft. It's actually a lady in Taiwan that does this super beautiful handmade job. And True Normal Side did this beautiful badge. It's special Royal Enfield logo with Rockcraft combined. So the whole thing just comes together to be like a race bike slash modern slash retro together with this piece. And it actually rides super amazingly. It's too bad that you can't ride it here, but yeah. But with all the weight reduction and the smooth power of this engine, it's just perfect for you to ride around the city.
Thanks, Winston. So speaking of sort of bikes that you'd want to ride, but in a very different way, we have one last build to show you today. That is our Major Roach, named for the indestructible nature of our base Himalayan motorcycle. The Major Roach has been a little passion project of us at the UK Technical Centre at Royal Enfield for the last couple of years, and has just sort of evolved over time to gather little bits here and there. We've made a particular emphasis of trying not to add things that were, or too expensive or buy-in parts, but to have clever usage of parts we already had or parts we found. So for example, this front area here, this little cover, that's actually the structural support for one of our front fenders on a Continental GT. But somehow we were looking at these parts. We have a lot of parts walking around development, just sitting around as part of testing and so on. And so we try to get inspired by them for different things. Obviously we've got a single-sided swing arm on here, but not quite as you've seen it before. So Harris Performance was able to help us out, making this super, if you even feel more indestructible, with the elongated aluminum swing arm. They have a long history in welding aluminum chassis and for racing purposes, and so we turned it to a little bit more of an aesthetic use here to elongate the chassis and just bring out the indestructible nature of the bike. Of course, a rather knobby tire on the back doesn't hurt that, and we have the framework from the stock Himalayan on the front, but with, again, a bit of a color change and so on to bring out a little bit of a military character, I'd say. We got a lot of inspiration for this build from video games, from anime, from things like that, and we try to bring that different character in just to get a different feel on the motorcycle. I mean, as with the GT over here, we try to approach color and graphic in a very different way. We try to surprise people with in the custom scene, and not just sort of take inspiration from it, but to also hopefully contribute something, of our imaginations into it. I should mention also on this, there's one thing that you may have noticed. We've decided also to put a turbocharger on it. The reason is because we could, because we had one, and as per the single-sided swing arm or any of these details, it was just something a little crazy, a little fun to do, and I got to tell you, it runs beautifully. I get a bit of boost off of it, and it adds a little craziness to the refinement that we have in these other bikes here. So thank you for watching, thank you for joining us at the Bike Shed here, and we look forward to seeing you.